She's in a very daddy phase right now, aren't you? God, I love kids. So I don't mind if she, funny enough, Jeff said when we was praying in there, he's like, feel free to preach holding your child, it's fine. And I was like, I've done it before. That's when Paul's a couple of weeks ago, Daryl was there, in fact, and she was playing, and then she ran up, she was like, Daddy. And then I just finished the sermon, just like this, why not? And to me, I mean, it's probably the biggest kind of emulation of how God is, and it's quite symbolic in a sense, you can use it to really showcase how God is with us and how we are, with God. He's just got us in his hands throughout all of life. It doesn't really matter what we're doing. Some people think, oh, you can't preach with a child. I'm not saying it looks unprofessional, but it looks a bit weird. But, it's we're all family here, and we've all got kids. Kids are sporadic, yeah? They just do random things. But I love McKenna, and, she's amazing. So if she comes back up, she comes back up. But I'll be quick. All right, let's go. Thanks for the reading, guys. Much appreciated. And, we've been tackling this chapter of Matthew chapter 5, and we're coming into the last little hurdle, the last little bit of the Beatitudes now. And like Daryl said, it's quite a challenging kind of chapter, really. There's a lot of real home truths that Jesus is saying. He came and, his ministry was important, but sometimes the things he said really did hit home. And he didn't come to kind of condemn, but he really wanted to make you see where you were going wrong and really kind of express the changes that you needed to make. Yeah, it's that kind of wake-up call and saying, right, now's the time. Yeah, this is what you need to do. And we see that in this passage that we just read. And the first thing I want to start off with is a prayer, obviously. I always pray before I talk. So let's just pray before we start. So Father, we thank you for this time that you've given us just to delve into your word. Thank you for your word, that it's just there, it's available, it's ready to access, and that it's just alive and talking to us and changing us today just as it was when you were around, Lord, doing your ministry, Lord. And we pray that for forevermore your word will just reach every corner of this earth. People will just be changed. And Lord, may we just be open to receive what your Spirit is saying to us for the rest of this service, Lord. Amen. Amen. Cool. So, the extra 1%. The extra 1%. Now, I'm a very big sports fan. Football is my main sport, but I follow all types of sports. And I find it very interesting how the elite, when people say, the elite, what makes them the elite? That extra 1%. Use football, for example. So what makes, your Lionel Messi's, your Cristiano Ronaldo's, your Mbappe's, your Zidane's, all these past greats, your Pele's, what made them, in a sense, that great? What made them that elite? Your Nadal's, Djokovic, Federer, your Ronnie O'Sullivan's, all these people, your Serena Williams. What was it that gave them that edge? What was it that gave them that difference? What set them apart from those that they were competing with? And people always say, and I said I've played in sport, I work in sport, and people always say it's that extra 1%. That's the little difference. And it could be anything. It doesn't always have to be something physical. It could be a mental thing. It could be a spiritual thing. It could be an emotional thing. Yeah, but there's something in them, that extra 1%, that allows them to reach what they say, or what people deem in their sport or their field, perfection. Yeah? That extra 1% that allows them to be perfect. And I use that in inverted commas because we all know there's only one perfect person. Yeah? But in their sport, they're seen as perfect. And those that are aspiring to be like them, you think of football, how many millions of people are aspiring to be the best footballer in the world or trying to make it as a professional. Yeah, I was one of them. Cool. And you aspire to be, these perfect people. Yeah, you look at them and you say, okay, how can I emulate them? What can I do to be like them? What can I do to move like them, to jump like them, to run like them, to think like them? Yeah, to get that extra 1% as well. Yeah, what do I need to do to be perfect? And the funny thing is when you have that person in mind, yeah, and again, you can think about someone that when you was younger or even now that you hold and think, in my field or whatever, who is that perfect? What is that idea of perfection that I have in my head? Yeah, who am I aspiring to be like? And you have that person in your head, and the funny thing is when you have that, you see two different things, and you think, on one side, I'm probably never actually going to get there. There's some people that think, what? You look at, I said, a Messi or a Michael Jordan in his prime or a Federer, and you think, well, I'm never actually going to get to that perfection. I'm never going to get there. So why am I actually going to bother? What's the point? If I can't achieve perfection, why am I doing this? Then you have the others who think same thing and think, I'm never actually going to achieve perfection, but I'm going to get as close to through our work ethic, through practice, through, I said, just not say modeling my game or my style on this particular person. Yeah, you may realize that, I'm probably going to fall short, but at least I can get as close to. And you know what? It's the same thing with Christ. Now, and that's my first point in that is that Christ is our model of perfection. Yeah, Christ is our model of perfection. He's the one that we're aspiring to be like. Yeah, he's the one who we're aiming for. His characteristics, his skill set. Yeah, so his physical attributes, but his embodiment. Yeah, who Christ is what we are trying to be like. And we all know that we're all probably going to fall short of those standards. We're all going to fall short of being perfect. Yeah, we're going to fall short of that standard. It says we're going to fall short of the glory of God. Yeah? But that doesn't mean we don't try. It doesn't mean we stop and just accept it that we're never going to be there. No. It means that we still strive to be as close to as we can. Yeah, we strive to be as close to as we can. And if you look in verse 48, the final verse, and sometimes when you read a passage, we go through it in chronological order. I'm starting with the finish. And it says, therefore you shall be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Yeah, that model of perfection. You shall be perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. Because people in life, we always want to know how we should act. It's one thing we're good at. We always want to think, okay, what should I be doing? How should I be doing it? What should I be saying? Who should I be saying it to? When should I say it? And if you think now more than ever, the society is very aware of certain things, or saying certain things at a certain time, or doing certain things a certain way. Yeah, you can feel kind of very, very judged and looked upon. Got to be wary of, can't say this. Shouldn't act like that. Yeah, people are very quick to kind of jump on what's not normal or what's slightly different. The standards of living have probably slightly changed. Yeah, what's deemed acceptable, said a few years ago, however many years ago, again, it's probably slightly changed. It might not be acceptable now. And who knows, 20 years' time, what's acceptable now, the standards, again, may change. But the one thing that doesn't change is that Jesus is still our model. That doesn't change. No matter what society and what standards of the world change, remember, our standards are set on Christ. And as people of faith, you think, well, what do we need to do? How should we act? And what is the model that we need to follow? And to be fair, chapter 5 covers everything. Obviously, we're focusing on the last 10 verses. And throughout this whole chapter, Jesus talks about, he refers to the previous laws, Old Testament law, commandments, and then puts his little spin on it, his little additions, his conditions. If you look at the first section of the passage, so you kind of go in the extra mile, and that's in reference to Exodus, Exodus 21, 23 to 25. I'll read it quickly. It says, "But if there is harm, then you shall pay life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe." It's a lot. It's everything, basically. So whatever is done to you must be done, in a sense, back. So it's about this kind of revenge type thing. But then when we read and we look into our actual passage, and it starts, say, you have heard that it was said. Again, and I have to thank Roman for this. Many years ago, Roman always taught me to look at the small words. Look at the small words in passages. And there's a word there, was. Was being past tense, correct? You've heard that it was said. It says, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. Sorry, that's 43. We're on 38. It said, you have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, etc. Like I just read. But I tell you not to resist an evil person. So automatically, Jesus has just said, right, you heard what was, now let me tell you what is. So straight away, your ears kind of prick up and like, oh, okay, so what is it? And then he sets out the standard. He sets out this model. And we all know, Jesus was, probably one of the biggest radicals ever. In how he was just ready to just make change and make people feel a bit uncomfortable. And I think it's important that us being in faith, that we sometimes make people feel a bit uncomfortable. I remember I did a sermon a while ago, discomfort and feeling uncomfortable leads to change. If things are comfortable, no change can happen. Things need to be shaken up a little bit. This is what Jesus is talking about. But I tell you not to resist an evil person, but whoever slaps you on your right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take away your tunic, let him have your cloak also. Whoever compels you to go 1 mile, go with him too. Give to him who asks you, and from him who wants to borrow from you, do not turn away. So this is saying it's not about this tit for tat. It's not about this, okay, you hit me, I hit you, you took from me, I take from you, you borrow from me, you didn't give back, so I'm going to borrow. It's no, it's not that. That was, we're not there yet. This is what is, right? This is what Jesus came to do, Jesus came to fulfill that law, came to abolish that law and bring that new, that new. And we all know, it said Pharisees, scribes, they thought they were righteous, living by the law. And to be fair, a lot of people would probably look at them and try and be like them. How many people do you know in churches and stuff want to try and be like their pastor? Try and be like their vicar, try and be like the person in the pulpit. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, There's skills skills you take from a lot of people, but you can't be them, They're not the model. They're not the model of perfection. Your pastor is not the model of perfection. Do you hear me when I'm saying this? The model of perfection is Christ. So you can take certain things from people, but you don't take everything from. You don't want to say, I want to be exactly like my pastor. I want to be exactly like. No. You're you. Be you. Be you, please. Because a lot of people were probably trying to be like the Pharisees and the scribes, because they saw them as this, these high men in spirit. They saw them as the ultimate kind of faithful. They probably saw them as perfection. And they're like, well, we need to be like them because that's who we see. They know all the scriptures. They uphold the law, so they must be doing things right. And Jesus comes in and says, so literally rips that up and says, nope. Yeah? Said, I'm the law. I've come in now. This is how it's going to be. Yeah, that's how it was. This is where it is. This is where it's going. And so as people of faith, like I said, so how do we act? What do we do? Yeah? It's written right there. We're called to not be quick to anger. We're not called to quick to act, quick for revenge. Yeah? To bite back. Those things that probably happen on a day-to-day basis. Let's be real. Yeah, we're humans. Someone may say something, you might have, your thing may be you have a sharp tongue. You're very quick to just say something back. It's calm. Yeah? That's what Jesus came for, yeah? That peace. Yeah? Jesus' model. Use an example, and I can't remember who it was, made reference to it, but the adulteress, yeah? Everyone's very quick to stone her, quick to throw. They bring her before Jesus. They said, this woman has committed adultery. This woman is her, and the penalty or the punishment is death by stoning. Jesus just calm. Yeah, we know the phrase, yeah? Let him who has no sin cast the first stone. No one says nothing. No one can do anything. Yeah? Jesus changed the law. Yeah? Be slow. Be Christ-like in these situations. Now, whatever those things look like for you, those things that make you want to seek revenge or act in that certain way, you need to address them. Yeah, you need to address them. If you're quick to anger, if you've got that sharp tongue and you want to bite back, you always want to try and get one up on someone. Yeah, we've all tried it. Yeah, we all want to do it. Don't want no one to get the better of me. What? That doesn't happen. Yeah, that little bit of pride, that ego that we have. And I'm saying this because I've lived it, of course. But now you realize that, you know what? That's not Christ. That's not the model. That's not the model, yeah? That's not going to give me that extra 1%. Get closer to perfection, which is Christ. Nah. Yeah, you always got to think about what's going to give you that extra 1%. That extra 1% to get closer to that perfection. Because I said, we all fell short, yeah? Sin came into the world, that gap. Yeah, we all know Jesus came to be that gap, to restore us back to that glory, so yeah, to restore us back to God. So why would you not follow that model? Why would you not follow the person who's come to do what he needed to do? And I asked you earlier, and I said, so what does perfection look like for you? I remember, sometimes you do it in school. You see kids, and they come back with a drawing. And they're like, yeah, this is what we did. And it's like their ideal person. And you hope it's you. You think, yeah, of course, it's got to be Dad. Of course I'm your ideal person. But to them, that's perfection, yeah? And it might be this guy with big muscles, and you think, oh, that's not me then, is it? But what's your idea of perfection? What does it look like? Who does it look like? Now, see, the Christian answer, spiritual answer is, yeah, it's Christ. That's what perfection is. Yeah? That's who perfection is. But you have to, again, it's a personal question. You have to say it to yourself. You have to answer that truly. Is Christ actually your model of perfection? Is Christ who you actually aspire to be? Because if he is, all these things And I said, well, unpack the other ones. But all these things, I don't say should become second nature, but, they start to become a bit easier because you should be modeling them, yeah? You should be fulfilling them. You should be doing them. Yeah, it's not enough to hear this stuff. Do it. And I mentioned this word a bit earlier, and my second point is, again, looking at what's included. So what's this? We've got this model, we've got this framework, yeah? We've got this model of perfection. We know Jesus is the model of perfection. What does it include? Yeah? What is it? And my second point is this, it's about standards. Yeah? Live by God's standards. Live by God's standards. I mentioned for years, everyone was living by the law. Yeah? The law was the standard. The law was set. That's what people had to live up to. That's what they had to be accountable for if anything went wrong. Yeah? That was the standard. It's set. Jesus comes in and sets a new standard. Yeah? Kind of just said, this levels up really quick. So where people think, oh yeah, I'm at this standard already, Jesus says, whoa, you're far off, you're way off it. This is it, this is where you need to be. And that's a wake-up call. And going back to, you think about these people that are training hard to be these professionals and the best in their field. When they reach a certain level and they think, oh, I made it. And then someone comes in and says, yep, well, there's what about this? Yeah, this is now the new bar. And you think, oh, well, what happens now? Yeah, you either just stay at this level or you say, you know what, right, let's go. New standard. And this is what Jesus was saying. He said, you've been living by this law. Now it's time to live by God's standards. Yeah, let's live by kingdom standards now. And it was a massive reality check. Massive reality check. People got humbled really quickly. Pharisees couldn't say anything. Couldn't say anything. They tried. Every time they tried, Jesus came back with something else. Yeah? Kept raising the bar. And it made them realize, you know what? What model are we following? We're not following this new model. We're not following this new standard. We're not following God's standard. Because remember, our standards are set by man. Remember that. Yeah? We're in this world. Cool? I think Michael said it earlier. Yeah? We're in the world. We have to follow the laws of the world. Yeah? We have to, don't steal, don't murder, all that stuff. We're in the world, so we've got to follow it, yeah? Remember, we're not of this world, right? So, if we follow the wrong type of standards, yeah, we follow standards of man, we only get to here, yeah? We only get far, yeah? So set your new standards. Follow God's standards, limitless, yeah? Limitless. We all know God has no limits. God has no limitations. Man does. So where are your standards? Yeah? Are they God's standards? Because let's be real, the stuff that's been put in is, and said, why Darryl was saying, the Beatitudes, they're tough. Because they make you think, am I actually living right for God? Like some of the simple things. Yeah, I mentioned, biting back, or, that kind of sharp tongue. You're thinking, okay, is that something that's really important? And obviously, yeah, of course, it's important. It's in here. So it must be important. So it makes you think, oh, okay, I've either got to sharpen up here, or I'm in trouble. And let's, again, and I want to say this carefully, I'll say this correctly. The word, these standards, again, us achieving perfection, yeah, we know Jesus is the only perfect person, okay? Because of sin, we will not be, and us as humans, we will not be perfect, yeah? So sometimes when people look at this and they think this is too much, it's too hard. Like, it's kind of like God setting us up to fail. And I can understand why some people think, I can't do this. I can't commit to this. The standards are way too high for me. And you know what? You're right. For you as a person, yes. But remember who's in us. Remember what model we're following. Yeah? Remember that God is in us. That's how you reach those standards. Yeah? Following God, the standards are limitless. Because to uphold the law was tough enough for a lot of people. Yeah? The law was tough enough for a lot of people. And then Jesus came in and said, right, well, this is now the new standard. People haven't even reached the old standard, and they're thinking, well, what chance have I got? But remember, Jesus said, I'll be with you always. Yeah, obviously a little bit later in his ministry, but this is God's time. This is the new law. Yeah, this is what I've come to help you with. Yeah, and it's through that Spirit that we have to help us and allow us to fulfill and meet these new standards. Because remember, these new rules, I'll say laws, these new rules, they're not necessarily it's not just about obeying these rules. Yeah, it's about how we live. It's about living to God's standards. It's about showing people the Christ, showing people and being examples of Christ. Yeah, it's not necessarily a tick box and going around and saying, oh, don't do this. Oh, I saw this. Again, it's not that. Yeah, it's a lifestyle. It should be implemented into everything that you do. Yeah, understanding how the will of God, understanding how it works, understanding what God can look like, manifested, what his kingdom should look like. And if we fail, Spirit will fail from time to time, 100%. Yeah, even the elite, yeah, that extra one, getting that extra 1%, they fail, of course. Yeah, those that are seen as perfect fail. Yeah, it happens. But when we fall short, on whatever occasion, on whatever it may look like, when we fall short, we've got that thing, it's called grace. Yeah, we have that grace of God. The difficulty in these verses, and I understand it can feel like it's just too much. That's a lot. That's what God's asking me to do, what Jesus is asking us to do. It's a lot. And you think, you know what, well, if I keep falling short, I'm never going to get there. But remember, you've been saved through grace. Yeah? You've been saved through grace. God will always provide. God will always watch over you. God will always support you because he knows you're trying. I said before, you're trying to get there and you keep pushing. You realize, God, I want you. I want to be closer to you. I'm striving to be more like you. He says, Romans 3:23. Yeah. We've all sinned, fallen short of the glory of God. But God's grace is sufficient enough for us. Yeah. 2 Corinthians 12:9. God's grace is sufficient for us. Yeah, you sing that song, Your Grace is Enough? Yeah, more than I ever need, 100%. God's grace is enough. Amen. And so we need to recognize that God's standards can only be attained with God at the helm. That's why they're God's standards. Yeah, God has to be at the front. God has to be here for us to achieve those standards. We can't do it without him. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, Henry Ford said, and I'm just going to quote to the owner of Ford, or the creator of Ford cars, he said, having a standard means doing something right when no one is looking. Having a standard means doing something right when no one is looking. I think so many and again, I'm not saying anyone in here, I think a lot of people in faith can fall short on that. We only do things when people are watching, seem to be the amazing Christians, and it looks good. But having a standard means doing something right when no one is looking. Yeah? Can you maintain something when eyes aren't on you? Yeah? When no one's going to judge you and say, oh, well, look at him, look at her, her hands are up, she's receiving the Spirit, it's good. But when you're in your room by yourself, you're still receiving the Spirit, your standard's still there. And there's another quote I found that says, having a standard, says, refuse to lower your standards to accommodate those who refuse to raise theirs. Wow. Refuse to lower your standards to accommodate those who refuse to raise theirs. And this may sound harsh, but sometimes you can't carry everyone forward. I said this to one of my friends, and I say it to him all the time. You can't save everyone. You're not a superhero. You're not a superhero. As much as you all want to be the Avengers and just save him and swing a hammer, just can't do it. Can't do it all the time. And I think for me, that was a big thing. I wanted to always try and bring people forward to say, this is the standard. Come on, guys, let's go. Come on, let's keep it going. And this isn't just spiritual, this is just in general. And then you realize, you know what? That might not be my portion. That might not be for me to deal with. Just pray, give it over to God. God will work something out at some point. Yeah? It's not always down to us to fix something. Yeah? We're not superheroes. Yeah? That brings a burden, that brings the pressures, and you feel like you have to always solve. You always have to win. You always have to be victorious. Sometimes it's not always easy. Some people just don't raise their standards. Yeah, you can't do things for people. You can't always do things for people. Yeah? Standards, people have their own standards. If they raise them, great. If you raise yours and someone doesn't come with you, like I said, don't drop back. Yeah? Keep your standards. Refuse to lower your standards to accommodate those who refuse to raise theirs. It's deep. Because what happens is that too many times we let our spiritual standards drop. We accept. We just accept. And then we kind of start the world's way starts to creep in certain things. Yeah, you start to conform a little bit. I'm saying, no way. It's not the time for that now. Yeah? Don't let your standards drop. Remember, it's God's standards. Yeah? We're not there. We're here. God's standard. We're striving to be the model of perfection. Yeah? So, let me wrap this up. Third point. So we've got this model of perfection, which is Christ. Yeah? That's what we're aiming to be. And what does it look like? How do we get there? Well, we have God's standards. God's standards have been set. Yeah? And then we read into this second part of this passage. It says, you have heard that it was said. Again, there's that word was. So this is what it was. This is what it's going to be. Yeah? You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who spitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. Cool, I'm going to pause it there. And so my third point is this. My third point is this. It says, be perfect in love. Be perfect in love. And I stopped it there because I wanted to say that before I say this next verse. It says, for he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust. God's love knows no difference. Yeah, God's love is perfect. It can't separate, it doesn't distinguish. Yeah, God shines his sun on the ones that the unjust, the just, the evil, the ones that do good. Yeah? God's love pours out on all of them. God's love is perfect, and I'm saying to us to be perfect in love. That's how you love your enemy. Human love is limited. Yeah, because it's tainted with all these other different emotions, all these other different things. God's love is pure. God's love is perfect. That's the love we need. When people say, oh, yes, that's why it's difficult or struggle to love your enemy, it's why? Because you're not loving through God. You're not loving through God's perfection. Yeah, you're trying to do it through you. You're trying to do it through you. Now, if there's someone that you generally hate or dislike or find difficult to deal with, that's you. That's your human emotion. That's your feelings. And then you're told to love them. But you're thinking, no, but they did this and this and this and this. Yeah, that's all human. That's you. God's love is perfect. Yeah, God doesn't separate. And that's the hard bit. That's the bit that people are like, oh, Jesus, I know, I'm not sure. It's tough. Yeah, that's the tough bit. But as soon as you can see people through God's eyes, I'll say it again, as soon as you can see people through God's eyes and realize that God loves all, you will find a way to love. That's next level. That's the standard that Jesus was setting. And people are thinking, oh, wow, okay. So I've been doing it wrong all this time. Yeah, I love my neighbor. Love my friends, of course. It's easy. They're your friends. They probably love you too. But let's say that neighbor on the other side, the one you don't talk to. The one that's a bit, not sure, wronged you in the past. Borrowed something, never gave it back. Years go by. They still say hi, but years go by again. You still haven't seen the vacuum. You have to buy a new one. All those things, and it becomes to hate. And then imagine Jesus knocks on the door and says, do you love that person? You say, what? 18 years ago, they stole my vacuum. Forgive, right? No? Would Jesus forgive? Would Jesus love? Who are we modeling on? That's what I'm saying. It's a simple example. Yes, it sounds funny, but it happens. Yeah, this is real. Like I said, God's love knows no different. And this is that radicalization that Jesus came in. He just literally came in, ripped the script and said, right, let's go. This is it. Get on board. This is the standard now. I don't know how many follow football, but I'll give you an example. So I work at Dulwich Hamlet, local club. We've had 3 managers this season, right? I know, it's crazy. New managers just come in. And all of a sudden, you can kind of see, and it happens, yeah? You see it probably, I said, every level. New manager comes in, everyone kind of perks up. It's like, right, this is the new standard. Let's go. Yeah, I've got to fight for my place. I've got to do this again. And sometimes it works. And, teams say, like, for us, it didn't really work like that. Hence why we got a new one. But you can see that there's that drive, yeah? Because the manager comes in and he's like, right, this was what you were doing, and this is why you are where you are. This is why you struggled. This is why I got brought in. So now, this is the new standard. This is it. You were here, I'm going to take you here. Yeah? I'm not saying Jesus is a manager. But imagine Jesus coming in and saying, right, team, this is what you were doing. I'm here now. Forget all that. This is where we're going to be. And I promise you, taking you to the top and beyond. Wow, I'm in. I'm all in. If a manager talked like that to me, I'll say, yeah, I'm in. I'm ready. Let's go. Then they hit you with all these conditions. They hit you with all this stuff and say, well, first, you've got to love your enemy. Ooh, not sure you're the one. Yeah? You see how you get excited, and then all of a sudden it's like, ooh. Yeah? But remember, then your manager says this, and I'm saying, Jesus then says, but remember, I'm with you. Yeah? I'm here. I'm right here. When you feel like something's, just talk to me. I'm right here. Right here. And you know what? It's not just me. I've got my assistant, the Spirit. He's here. He's here too. So if you want to speak to any one of us, and you know what? Even if you can't get through to us, you've got the director, the chairman upstairs. Yeah? You've got the Father. Talk to him. Yeah? You've got all of us to get you through when something feels tough, something feels difficult. Yeah? We're right here with you. Now let's go and win those games. Yeah? You guys pumped up? Let's go. No. But you see what I mean? And that's how it can be. That's how it should be, that team talk. Yeah? Because that's what it's about. It's that perfection. That's what we're striving to be. Yeah? Imagine, see Jesus as your manager. You've got a perfect manager. Learn from him. I'm all in. And my final point, and this is it. And again, go back to that last verse. Oh no, I'll read verse 47 first. It says, and if you greet your brethren only, what do you do more than others? Do not even the tax collectors or pagans do so? It's like, okay, well again, we've kind of come full circle. What is it that sets you apart from everyone else? Yeah? What is it that makes you that extra, gets you that extra 1%? Yeah? What is it that gets you closer to that elite or to that perfection that we're aiming for, that model, that Jesus perfection? Yeah? Again, it's these things. It's be perfect in love. Yeah? And again, this is it basically. Be perfect in love. If you have that God love, everything else just follows. Everything else becomes easier. Yeah? If we can love how Jesus loved, forgiveness comes. Yeah? Peace comes. Yeah? But it starts there. And in the same way that Jesus was the model of perfection and went above and beyond for each one of us, yeah, is exactly the same way, exactly the same model that we should follow for not just people in here, not just our friends, not the people who said our neighbors, but also, as I'm putting out there, but our enemies out there, those that we need to tell the truth, that we need to help, that we need to bring into this kingdom. Yeah, we need to go above and beyond. That's what Jesus did. Jesus made the ultimate. Yeah, he died for us. Again, I'm not saying you need to die for your neighbors and die for your enemies. Yeah, but this is the level. This is the standard that Jesus was setting. This is what he was willing to do. Yeah, what's your standard? Yeah, how high is it? What's your God standard? How high are you willing to push? How far are you willing to go for Christ? How far are you willing to go for the kingdom? How far are you willing to go to be close to that Jesus perfection? So Jesus is the model of perfection. Yeah? Jesus is the model of perfection. We need to be that model of perfection in this world. It's down to each one of us. Yeah, we need to be the model of perfection in this world. It's difficult, I get it, yeah? There's certain things in here that are tough. But again, I said, you've got your manager here, you've got Jesus right here, let's go. You've got your assistant, you've got the Spirit right here. You've got your chairman upstairs, you've got the Father, yeah? You've got everything and everyone you need. So let's go. Now, there may be things that are stopping you from going. Yeah, there may be those barriers, there may be things you're like, well, nah, it sounds great and I'm all for it, but whatever those buts are for you, those barriers, those things that say, oh, but, and again, Daryl mentioned it, it's Mother's Day, yeah, but the relationship with my mum, it's not always been the best. Don't really see it changing. It's a barrier. My neighbour stole my vacuum 18 years ago. Or haven't spoke since. It's a barrier. Someone says something to me that I'm not really keen on, got to give it back. Got to let them know. Barrier. The list goes on. Yeah? What is your barrier? What is stopping you from reaching that ultimate perfection? What is stopping you from really following Christ, really following that model? Yeah? And again, it's not easy, but you have to go through that process. I'm saying this for myself as well, 100%. Yeah? There may be things that are just stopping you from kind of really going all in. Yeah? Talk to your manager. Talk to your assistant manager. Yeah? Talk to them. That's what they're there for. And that's where we're at now. So I invite Michael and Yolanda to come up. And again, just where you're at it's your time now to break those barriers down. We sang Spirit Break Out a bit earlier. Break those walls down. What are these things that are stopping you from pushing through? Are you still comfortable in this old law state? Because it doesn't ask that much of me. In all honesty, it doesn't ask that much of me. Jesus' stuff is much harder. I'd rather stick with the old stuff. No. This is the new standard. Yeah? By all means, if you need prayer, if you want people to pray for you, there's time to. But don't leave here. We're still with those barriers weighing you down. Still with those walls up. Yeah? Burst them down. Kick them down. Break them down. Punch them down. Knock them down. So do your business with God. Father, thank you that you are our model of perfection, that you are the one we can look to, that you set that standard for us. You set that standard. And Lord, we know that we have fallen short of your glory. Lord, we have all sinned. But Father, thank you for your grace, that you've allowed us a chance of redemption, that we can be restored and renewed and come back to you. Father, I pray for everyone now, whatever barriers, whatever things that are blocking, are in the way. Father, may you just knock them down. May you just remove them, Lord. Father, we place them at your cross. Father, they will no longer hold us back, that we can boldly look to you, we can boldly stand before you and say, Lord, that we are perfect in you. You are the one we are following. You are the one we are trying to be like. You're the one we aspire to be like. So, Father, allow us to continue to learn from you. Allow us to walk with you without any stumbling, without any barriers in our way. My prayer for each one of us now is that we recognize that to achieve God's standards, we need God himself. You need God in every aspect of your life. And if that's your barrier, not bringing God into every aspect, trying to keep certain things away from God and keep things separate. Remember, God isn't separate. God is in all. God is above all. God is in control of all. If there's something stopping you from coming to God, something stopping you from being all in for God, now's the time. Now's the time to remove that. Now's the time to break down that wall. It's time to do your business. So we can go out there and be that model of perfection to the world. Just as Jesus was that model of perfection, we are called to be that model of perfection for everyone outside, for everyone. As I said, you guys are not alone. You are not alone. You have that Spirit. The Holy Spirit is with you. Amen.